Blessings, everyone. Today I would like to share an oracle reading from the messages from the guides, and this is an oracle deck from James Van Praagh. A lot of us are working with the Ascended Masters and starting to connect deeper with our guides, or many of us feel like that our loved ones that are in fullness of spirit have been nudging us and giving us synchronicities and signs. The angels. There's so many energies to work with in the spirit world or the unseen world, the worlds within worlds. And all of them can guide us. So when we speak of the term guide, a lot of people understand it to be the guides that work with us, that have had lifetimes, maybe not in a recent lifetime, but understand what it's like to be human or live in the physical and have mastered certain challenges. And also they're working on some of their karma that they didn't get to finish in our school. So as we heal, they heal. First, I would like to say thank you to Source for allowing me to be a medium of light. And I ask all the guides of the collective to please blend in an energy space so that I may hear you and help bring a message for the highest good. Thank you. I'm grateful. Now I'm just going to do a shuffle. I like to shuffle the cards. The first one always embodies source energy. The second embodies higher self and spirit. And the third one helps to integrate soul. That beautiful story, the personality, the expression of our spirit in the physical. Oh, they're saying take this one right away. Don't relinquish your power. And as they are blending, and I'm listening, Spirit is saying that when we think of power, we think of dominance. When we think of power, we think of love. But what is this power that we're all seeking? What is this power and how do we use power? What does that mean for us? One of the most challenging yet healing and rewarding uses of this terminology, power, is loving ourselves. And know thyself, they're saying know thyself. When we understand our purpose, when we have opened up and surrendered to the idea that we are here in our school to learn, expand, and heal, we begin to form boundaries. We begin to understand the challenges, become knowledge, and then wisdom, especially when we've processed all of these things through our heart space. When we have learned to integrate the ego as a tool, when we understand that the mind is not the enemy, that we need the gray matter for processing, for logic. When we integrate the soul, the heart, the mind, the physical, alignment brings us what we use as the word power. We hear this term a lot, empowerment. I'm empowered. Whether it's something like going for your first run and conquering that or whether it's furthering an education and realizing how well we're doing with that. Maybe it's for the first time someone is trying to test a boundary that we set up and we stood our ground respectfully and didn't allow some of the looping or the programs that we used to fall into to keep playing over and over again. This time we make a different choice. And then we use this word empowered. So Spirit is saying, what is it that gives the power away? It's not allowing others to walk all over us. It's not just being quiet and not speaking up when we see something that isn't justice. It's not staying silent when we feel like we need to speak out. Giving our power away is when we haven't spent any time here in this earth school understanding who we are. That is the first and always the most important part of this whole journey, is understanding, know thyself. Because from here, any choices we make to create boundaries, any choices we make to further an education, to take a chance on a dream, to allow ourselves to love over and over again, even if we feel like we've been hurt. All of this doesn't empower us on its own if we don't understand exactly what's happening and why it means something to us. Spirit is saying not to give our power away by not taking the moment, not learning, not allowing ourselves the grace to turn the experience into wisdom. Giving our power away is not realizing when we have a challenge that it's an opportunity for us to open our consciousness, to further our journey, to heal, to bring that wisdom back for when we're no longer here anymore, to share that with the collective, with our friends and family. They're saying we don't have to be in fullness of spirit to be a guide. We guide each other here as well. We're guiding ourselves. Our higher self is always seeing the bigger picture. And when we're quiet and we know ourself, know thyself, we connect very easy with that. And we understand that there's always a reason for something. There's always something that we can learn from every experience. It's just, are we willing to embrace that? We give our power away. We don't give ourselves the opportunity to learn from anything. When we decide to go into a space of complete sadness, anger, and negativity, when we go into the space of fear, when we close our hearts off, this is giving away our power. Not to anyone, but the power that we've gathered within ourselves, in our energy bodies, in our being. We're letting that leak through. There's a term they're using, our own worst enemies. That it's not necessarily what's going on in the chaos of the world that takes the power away. A simple, what they say, mistake is not a mistake. if we understand that we can always correct, redirect, take a higher perspective of something, ask for help. That's creating more life energy. And with that, the possibilities become endless. Because now we're seeing, they say we're in the 3D world, but then we go to the 5D world because now we broaden the perspective. We're not looking narrow vision, a tunnel vision. They're showing me like somebody with binoculars. We're not looking at something specific. We're not so hyper focused on one singularity. We become that. And all of this power that we're not giving away is when we decide to look within and allow ourselves the challenges, allow ourselves, and don't beat ourselves up over it. Open up to learn from it. And understand that they want me to bring up a teaching that I had recently, a reminder. I say this coincides with this because we are so focused on the internet these days and looking for everything on the internet and always trying to validate our opinions. We give our power away when we start looking for others to validate constantly, or giving our inner light away when we do this. And that's not to say if we need therapy that we shouldn't seek that, or if we need a doctor that we shouldn't go and have our wellness check. But there's something that we get caught up in our ego, that we forget to use the ego as the tool it is, and we use it as a compass. And when we want to be right about something, and we're so caught in the idea of that, it can't be any other way than the way that we perceive, we will seek that answer out to validate us. Someone somewhere has said the same thing we do in that very moment, and we'll find it on the internet and asphyxiate on that. Or maybe we'll argue and argue and argue because we feel that if we aren't standing our ground in what we believe in, that we're giving our power away. And what Spirit is saying is that sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes there are people put in our life, in our moment, in our awareness, to challenge us in some way with a different view, to see if we're ready to broaden our perspective on things, to be interested, to see an opportunity. We have had many experiences and gained much wisdom here, and that creates a power within us that gives us the ability to see much further than right in front of us, and to get out of that narrow vision, to get out of that space that we want to use the ego as a compass rather than a tool. And we step out of the fear, which is the root of all of that. Fear creates the anger. Fear creates the narrow vision. Fear of giving away the power if we feel that we're not correct with something. And the Spirit is saying, we have to let that go. Because eventually all things will make sense at some point. And it takes a lot of power within our being to say, I know that I don't know. or that I surrender this moment because I can't seem to find the answer. Or I thought I understood something, but now someone has come into my space, my awareness, my life, and given me a different perspective. And that's not losing your power. That's not giving it away. If they don't test us sometimes and our boundaries aren't pushed a little bit, we're not going to ever have that experience of being able to see that we do have the personal power, that we do have the boundaries in place, that we have made shifts in our perspective, and that we have opened our heart. Because it may be that a situation isn't agreeable for us, but how we've handled that experience has changed. And all these things need to come up and rise up once in a while. They're saying these are the challenges. These are the little spanners in the works that they throw in for us to recognize what our power really is and how is it useful. Power is only useful to us if it comes in a space of love, whether that's self-love, whether we're sharing that space of love, if we're sharing wisdom, if we're feeling enlightened, if we're understanding a broader perspective. It doesn't come when we make others small, when we make ourselves small, when we feel more accomplished than others, when we're measuring anything against anyone else. That's not a place of power. Success isn't about that we have more, we know more, we've done more. It's about, well, now that I'm here, who else can I help get there as well? They're closing their energy down and they're pulling back. I'm learning a lot by sharing this today. There's a lot of things I needed to hear, and I hope that in some way this makes sense to others and that we feel more inspired together. Thank you very much for allowing me to share this message today. Much love, everyone, and beautiful blessings.